Hey Tyler, how's it going?
It's going.
It's going.
It's going pretty good.
That's good.
It we have sunshine for the past week. Like the
Everyone is talking about, oh my God, the sun's out for the first time in 28 days. I was
it
like, who keeps track of that?
I don't know how long it's been, but I mean everything's still wet, but
Mm,
at least it's not wet and gray and just
yeah,
depressing. So we've had since last week sunny, like it's 50 here today and
yeah.
sunny.
It's supposed to be 58 on Sunday.
Yeah. So
I'll take it, man.
it's obviously not necessarily indicative of what's going to happen for the rest of February, but the little bit of sunshine and some warmth has actually been good for me this week.
I bet it is.
I
It's a little
also
vitamin D.
yeah, I so the one of my jobs, the door, it's like one of those Andersen doors that you have to lift up the hardware for like the
Mm,
strikers to go out and lock. And it's an older door, and throughout the renovation, like, the strikers aren't working correctly, and I feel like the hardware has to be replaced, but I just taped over the bottom striker because, like, when it would go back in, it would still be loose and wobble, and so when you went to open the door, it, like, wouldn't go all the way in, so it would get hung up, and
mm.
then if you pushed it, it would trash the trim, like, on the jamb. So I taped it, and then like the tape, I forgot about it, and the tape must have worn through. And I like couldn't get into the job yesterday. And I'm like, man, this striker's stuck. So finally I was like, you know what? I'm gonna cut this. It's not doing anything. Like it doesn't function. I was like, I'm gonna cut this thing off. So I took vice grips and I cut it off. And then my customer called me this morning, was like, hey, we can't lock the door for some reason. Like, I wonder if I can't imagine that like me cutting this thing off has like would not allow the deadbolt to lock because like as soon as you pull up on that handle, it allows you to lock whether the strikers are catching on something or not.
Bro, you
Um,
broke something.
oh, I definitely broke something like with the sawzall on that thing. I think it just
100%.
needs to be like wiggled loose. But I'm like, damn, I got to go back out there to try and figure out why. He's like, you can come back on Monday. I was like, I'm not going to come back on Monday. You have like a family. They're in the middle of the woods, but I'm like, I'm not going to come back on Monday with you guys not being able to lock your back door until then. So I got to do that after the podcast today.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the podcast, today we have Megan Billings on. She's owner, general contractor of Meg and Co. Homes. I
She's
actually
been
met,
she's been did she go to your summit?
she did, yeah, twice now.
Okay.
And I heard that her husband Tyler said that if she goes to a third one, that she's going to have some shit to deal with because she's got massive responsibility of running her building company. So
Stupid name her husband has.
Tyler,
Yeah.
yeah, but he's pretty nice. He's a pretty nice dude.
I was on their website. I'm interested in their it looks like they do a lot of online consulting for design.
Mm,
And I want to see what that's all about and how that works and what the point of that is. If it's like a foot in the door type thing, right? Where you can get in with a low investment and then you're like, oh yeah, this is working out. I like these people. Let's have them build our house. I'm curious.
yeah, I think that. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I have a lot of questions about their website. That was one of them, but also like the portfolio. Everything's named, and it's almost as though you kind of pick and choose.
Yeah.
Um, and they actually went through a huge rebrand just recently. I want to chat about that, and I mean, I think it's super cool to see her not only put together this brand and build the homes that she does, but if you follow her on social media, she's got a great personality and just really infectious, uplifting personality, and I think it brings a sense of lightheartedness to this industry, which is oftentimes can be appreciated.
Sweet. Well, I hope everyone enjoys the combo. I'm looking
Let's,
forward to it.
let's get into it.
All right, man.
This podcast is brought to you by Andersen Windows. Dude, I was watching the video on YouTube the other day of that 2x4 smashing the glass.
Yeah.
it is so much cooler watching it on video
You
because when
think?
we
I thought it was cool.
it was cool in person, but like, that thing came out of the cannon so fast that it was like, we do the countdown and then it hits and it's like you blinked and it was like, "Wait, I wanna see, like, what happens when it hits the glass." And so watching it on video was super cool because obviously he's able to slow it down and just see it, hit the glass over and over and over.
Fair enough, but maybe it's just because you didn't push the button, the
Well,
launch
that is true.
button.
I mean, that's because I lost the rock, paper, scissors shoot,
Next
you know?
time.
But if you want to see that video, head over to YouTube to take a look behind the curtain at Andersen's craftsmanship. This is an unprecedented behind the scenes look at their manufacturing facilities in Bayport, Minnesota.
During our time together, we created 3 immersive videos providing a firsthand account of what sets Andersen apart, a meticulous exploration of what actually makes them different and better. Discover the artistry behind their windows and doors crafted with precision and passion. This is more than just a tour, it's an intimate experience that showcases Andersen's commitment to quality, innovation, and the enduring legacy we build together.
So make sure you head over to Andersen Windows YouTube channel because the videos are posted there. But we did post a couple of them on our YouTube channel as well. So make sure you don't miss the chance to witness that craftsmanship at a whole new level. And yes, for those that have been mentioning it in the comments, yes, we got special permission to film in an otherwise no film zone.
It's true.
So la di da.
La di da.
This podcast is also brought to you by Buildertrend. It's no secret that the industry is facing a labor crisis. With too many jobs and not enough workers, how can you keep your business from drowning?
The short answer? Technology.
Well, Buildertrend has put together a comprehensive guide to help you navigate the labor shortage and how to use their software to do more with fewer workers.
Inside, you'll find 5 strategies for making the most of your existing workforce, an in-depth overview of the shortage and how it's impacting the industry today, and Q&A with the chief economist at Builder Magazine, sharing how builders can continue to succeed and what to expect next.
I think, just to go off script for a moment, Tyler, I think that they're spot on where, there's a huge demand for work and there is the increasing or the decreasing workforce and fewer workers. And even those that are in the field, it's, are, do we have the right expectations for them? Are we setting them up for success? And it just becomes one of the more challenging parts of our industry. So if you want Builder Trend's inside look at that, go download the free ebook at buildertrend.com/labor shortage and help prepare for 2024.
Well, I thought I had it all together. That was really good. I was in the studio early. Headphones were all hooked up, just like
I would
acting
just
like a boss.
continue to I
The
feel like I would just
studio,
continue to
like,
blame Nick, but
yeah, blame me. DJ studio? What kind of studio are we talking about here?
Oh, just the StreamYard studio.
Oh, I thought you meant you had an actual studio. I was
Oh
like,
no, I kicked Tyler out of his office. I have a note up on my front door to my kids. Do not come home. Wait outside till grandma and grandpa get here. That's my
did,
studio.
did Tyler tell you he talked to me about 2 weeks ago on FaceTime
Yeah.
while I was driving?
It's your neck, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I did, but I was with Mike from Emser Tile, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, my neck's killing me." He goes, "Oh, hold on a second." And he goes, I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm gonna call this guy Tyler, and he's gonna tell you how to stretch." And I'm at a red light, and Tyler's like, "All right, now do this and put your arm like that." I'm like, "I gotta go. I'm like, it's a green light. 1 second. I'm coming up to another red light, and I'm like stretching in my car, and it was just funny. And then he followed up with the text. He was like, "Here, do all these moves, and you'll be golden in no time." But you can sadly report to him that I did not follow his direction, and I just suffered with it for another 3 days, and
Yeah.
eventually went away. So
As his wife, that's my usual go-to move when it comes to physical therapy.
yeah, just suffer
Complain a
through it.
lot, make him give me lots of attention, and then ignore all directions.
wait,
I'm sure that's pretty common.
did you
Yeah.
realize it was him when he called him on the phone?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was gonna say that would be like a weird coincidence.
No, I had met Tyler when you guys came to Scottsdale.
Yep. Yep.
And it was funny. I remember when I first was chatting, I was like, "Oh, do you work with Meg?" He goes, "No, I'm in a completely different industry." He goes, "The building's her thing." He's like, "I'm here to golf." And I think what do you play, like 36 holes in a day or something like that?
Oh yeah. He's
I was
all in.
I was like just maniac. But hey, we're not here to talk about Tyler. We're here to talk about you.
Yeah,
Uh,
way cooler. Quit giving Tyler all the time.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You just went through a rebrand, so let's just start with that.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Well, when I first started, I really wanted to fit in with everyone else. So I went with like,
Lame.
yeah, the most buildery name you could possibly come up with, like the 3 initials in construction. So started out Meg Construction, and it served me well, but we keep growing and evolving, and we're really pushing like this customer experience and this design studio in-house, and it's just
Tyler,
a lot bigger than Meg Construction.
are you
Oh,
moving
I
those
didn't
screen?
know that moved all of ours.
I was just getting motion sickness.
Perfect. Yeah.
No, because all right, sorry. See, this
I
is
moved it originally, and I
that's
didn't.
why I was like, this is not how it normally looks, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on right now, and then I was like, I assumed that I changed it. I didn't know it changed everyone, and then I was like, oh shoot, there's all these different layouts. This is sick.
Yeah,
My bad.
whoever's watching this on YouTube right now is like, "What is going
All
on?"
right, there we're
Yeah,
back.
there we go.
Oh, buddy.
It was. I've never had this view. We've never had
Neither
this
have
view
I,
on.
but it makes me look directly in the center.
I
It-
guess.
I think it's kind of helpful.
That's why I was very confused.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Meg.
All right.
Sorry for the
Why would
motion.
it change?
The motion.
I guess.
I don't
All
know.
right. Sorry.
So yes, Meg
Yeah,
Construction.
rebranded. It actually came from coming. I had a big trip where I had the Coalition and Builders 20 back to back, and it was a feedback I got from both sides. Like, your brand doesn't fit what you're saying and what you're trying to do, and so this Meg & Co. Designer Homes really encompasses that a lot better. And working with brands and working with clients and kind of just trying to tell people who we are, it just fits us so much better than the Meg Construction did.
I think it. I mean, it's super clean, and that's what I recognized them. Right off the bat when you went through it, and then of course hopped over to your website, and just everything was super cohesive, and I feel like it speaks to like a very larger message, and I think probably a lot to do with and Co. And talks about how you have a team behind you. Now, similar timing, I feel like you also your social media strategy, I want to commend you on, because you're hilarious, and you create this like lighthearted persona in construction. How has that been received?
I think it's been really well received. I can do something like that takes years of planning, all this money, huge success, and it does meh. But then I just act like a dork, and for some reason that's what everyone wants to see. So no, I think it really is who our company is. Like, we're trying to take on these big goals, these big things, but we have a ton of fun doing it. And our trade team, same way, like we can mess with them. And this, you gotta have some fun in this, because building is rough. It's like you get your highs, but you got a lot of lows in there and not a lot in between. And so we do really like to have fun and kind of laugh at some of the nuances of our industry.
How long have you been in business?
6 years.
And before that, were you in the industry?
No, I did manufacturing engineering. I designed immersion heaters, which is super exciting. I'm sure you have lots of questions.
What's an immersion heater?
Immersion blenders.
I did get to design one heater that heated up chocolate for the Hershey Chocolate Factory.
I mean, that's pretty dope.
That's big time. Yeah.
So that was when you peaked and you're like, really, there's nowhere to go at this point from this. So let's go another direction.
Exactly. No, I had 4 kids, and so I was doing the stay-at-home thing, and I don't sit well, so I always had some hustle game going on. But that was a big part of my life. Is I've got 4 kids, and then when we went to build our home, I have my whole origin story about our builder got super sick. And so like the timing wasn't right. Like I wouldn't have thought, let me jump into building, but I was forced to because he was out of it and not available. And so I just stepped in doing the things. And then when I launched my business, my youngest was going into kindergarten. So the timing's a little bit better now, but it was tough in between.
At what point did you take over the job for the builder?
We were starting framing.
And you had like 0 experience at that point?
I had been around it growing up. I grew up in Alaska, and my parents are big into projects. And so like my mom will design things and my dad would get forced to build it. So I grew up around it, but no, I would say my experience was pretty minimal. I luckily had this amazing team of trades that this incredible builder was already set up with. So I would just go to them and be like, hey, who's the next guy? And what does he want? Like, what does he need to be able to do his job? What's his phone number? And I just asked a bazillion questions for sure.
I can't imagine. Like, I can't imagine building my own house now, let alone my first project being my own house. Do you still like your house?
I really love the layout. We're kind of toying with building again, and I'll say our driveway is the worst. I didn't even think to check it because who would at that point? But we have a utility thing like right in the way of where my truck needs to back out. So it like narrows down to a 2-car garage, and every morning just profanity going through my head is find out someone parked behind me. So mad. Or the garbage cans right behind me. And a double closet. I just wanted another closet. I just want to be able to lock it. No kids. No one can get in. It's just mine. Is that too much to ask?
I mean, I don't feel like you have to build an entirely new house to get those 2 things, but
Meg's like, yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
I mean, I look back, not that you were physically performing the work, but I look back at projects that I did early on, and you don't have the knowledge or the experience. And I look at stuff from when I first started and I'm slightly appalled. And I wasn't leaning on professionals to guide me. It was myself guiding me. But it would be very, very challenging to take on a massive project, especially your own house. That seems like a lot of stress.
Yeah, it really was a lot. And I do think I kind of had the benefit of being completely novice. So I did have to lean on those trades where sometimes you start to get some ego and you're like, I know things. I can make this call. You don't know what you're talking about. But at that point, luckily they were really good trades. That's massive, and they were willing to help. But I think that definitely helped at that point.
Is that builder still around?
Yes, he has been so awesome, so supportive. Yeah,
that's cool.
Love him.
I was gonna say, was he like pissed because now you probably use all his subs?
I probably a third of them. As we like grew, we're building bigger homes, you need different sizes of crews, and we really love doing custom work. Like we want to push the envelope, and not all trades want to, especially in the last few years where things were like going crazy. It was just financially smarter to get into a simple house, bang it out, get out, move on to the next one. And so it's taken us probably 4 or 5 years to really like feel like we have this team that they're bought into our projects, that they want to do something crazy and cool, and they don't just want to get to the next house as fast as they can.
I think you're spot on with the ego comment. I just want to go back for a minute because, I think a lot about that and that whole process of, going through and asking questions and feeling as though you can be humble enough to ask something that you don't know. And, I posted about this a couple of months ago about, it's like being in school and when the teacher turns around and says, does anyone not understand what I'm talking about? And no one raises their hand. And then, eventually one kid raises is like, actually, I don't know what you're talking about. And then like 6 other people are like, yeah, neither do I. And it's like, it just takes that one person to just, at least like level the playing field. And I think, I mean, that has to be one of the contributing factors to your success in 6 years, is just going into this like, hey, I don't know. This is what I want to do. And I need some guidance. And, I was chatting with someone on a consulting call recently, and they were talking about how do they get out of the type of work they're doing today and into the work that they want to be doing. And the conversation kind of evolved into, well, have you ever communicated what you want to do, or are you trying to put on this persona that you already do it? Because if you're going to pretend like you build, crazy modern homes, but you've never built one, how do you how are you going to tell that story? If it, how are you going to fake that? And
Yeah.
not only that, but like, if you are faking it, then it's, you're just, you're deceiving someone. Where it there's probably a much better approach, where why not just connect with the people that you would be working with in that space and say, hey, this is what I want to do. And eventually someone's going to be like, hey, I know what the next step you need to do is. And you're a great example of that. Is, you're going into it asking like, who's next? What trade needs to come in now? And what do they need from me? It's like, oh, the electrician, like, do I need to lay out lights, or does he need, do I need to tell him what appliances I'm buying? Like, what information does he need? And just being completely open to getting that feedback.
Yeah. I think it's been really great. I'm not perfect at it still. I think it was about home 3 where I'm like, home 3 or 4, I'm like, I should probably know this. I don't want to ask it. I don't want to be that kid in the classroom who says, I don't know, because I probably should have picked that up by now. But I think it's a big benefit our company has, is that we are willing to do that. And I think having a lot of females in there that aren't like, I grew up in construction, there isn't that pride issue. So we can ask dumb questions, or we can, like, sometimes I'll have a project manager and he's saying like, I'm like, I don't think you know what he's saying, but you don't want to ask. And I can just ask, and it's, I don't know.
I think
knowledge is power.
I think you're right. And I wanted to ask that in terms of like being a female in the industry and feeling as though, like, do you think that has been the, a good characteristic to lean on in terms of like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? Where, I think you're right. Like, a lot of, that PM that you're talking about, myself, I've been guilty of it. And I think men in general are relatively guilty in not admitting when they're wrong or when they don't know. And because of the ego that we typically have, and it's like, no, we need to be the person that knows what we're talking about. We can't show weakness.
Yeah.
Do you think that's been a contributing factor to, kind of growing your business?
I totally think it has. And not that like female, male, like, I don't want to be told I'm wrong either, but it's, when I started getting into this, my dad was petrified, right? Like, protective father. He's like, you're just going to get taken advantage of. You're way too nice. This is going to go badly. Like, please don't do this.
Thanks, Dad.
And it's, it's been the complete opposite, though. Like, I really think it's what you put out there is what you get back. And by us showing respect to our trades, showing respect to their 25 years of experience, like, let me learn from you. I think that we are like, our team has gotten a lot of help on that side that we wouldn't have gotten, where I'm watching other builders that are coming into this that my same age, been in here for the same amount of time, and there's no way so-and-so is helping them with this issue. It's just a different dynamic. And I think the female male totally leans into it, but I also think it's what you put out there and how you treat people and how you expect them to treat you.
What was the first job that you sold? Like, when you started your business, it was a full house build?
Yeah. A little house on Caillou Street. It was a starter home. And I actually bought a lot kind of by my house because it's a great neighborhood. I'm like, it'll sell fast. And then I panicked. I'm like, I don't want to do this in front of everyone. I don't know if I can do this. So I sold that lot, bought one in the little town next to us. And just started going at it. Like I had written down, luckily, lots of things from my house, but I didn't know anything. Like I didn't have a budget. I didn't know how much a stucco would cost or framing materials. Like I knew nothing, but I'm like, other people make money in it. I'm just going to build a house. And if I lose 30,000, like that's my college education. I'll take it. And so we just started this little 3-bedroom, 2-bath starter home, and it turned out amazing. And I ended up making money. I didn't lose any money. So that was great.
So your first job wasn't like a customer came to you and asked you to build a house. You bought a lot and then essentially built some sort of a spec.
Yeah. I really didn't want to do that with the extra pressure of someone.
That's what I was thinking, that where it's like, oh, okay, so you sold a house and you haven't built one for a customer. How the hell? Like, I don't even know where you would start.
Like, that would be like, it was intimidating enough. I can't imagine having a client like stressed and this is their big financial purchase and it's all on my shoulders. No,
I don't know why that's where my head went, but that makes a little bit more sense and eases my anxiety some, because I'm like, Jesus, could you imagine like selling a job to somebody and your first even just like from a business perspective, like what you need to operate your business, let alone actually building a house and coordinating subs and schedule, permitting and inspections and everything else. That's a lot.
Yeah. I learning those different aspects too. Like at first it was very much like, let me learn how to build a house. And then after that, it was, let me learn how to run a business.
Yeah.
Because they're completely different. You can be a great builder or a great trade, but if you can't run the business side, it's going to be rough.
To go back a bit, you said you grew up in Alaska, and then where do you guys live now?
We're in Twin Falls, Idaho.
And how do you end up there?
Well, there's this tall, dreamy basketball player walking down the road, and
in Alaska.
So my husband and I both played college basketball. Met playing basketball. He went to Weber State. We did PT school for my husband in Dallas for a while, and ended up in Twin Falls. My sister had moved here from Germany, of all places, so we came up to visit her. He met his previous business partner, and that's how that got started.
Nice. And where is Twin Falls in Idaho? I gotta look it up. My geography is terrible.
So we're southern Idaho. Do you know where Sun Valley is? We're like an hour from Sun Valley. Oh, yeah.
Has there been like a boom in that area? I know a bunch of other areas of Idaho have exploded some.
Yeah, we had a huge boom in the last year and a half, couple years have been slower, but before that, when everyone else was having their boom, Boise was the biggest growing, I think, in the nation, and we were their overflow. So we're 2 hours from Boise, a little bit smaller, I don't know why I acted like we were almost Boise size. We're not. We're smaller than Boise, but we were their overflow. So we quickly grew at a similar pace, and which is really unusual for us. Like usually ups and downs don't affect us so much because we don't have those huge highs, but we definitely did this last go around.
I always forget how far west Idaho is. It's Nick, weren't you just out there?
Yeah, I was just in Sun Valley, and if I had, I would have never picked that in as a location on the map. I was like, oh man, that's really west.
Yeah.
Well, I feel the same thing about the East Coast. Like I know my West states really well, but then it's like back to elementary and there's all those tiny states all squished together.
Yeah, so, I don't know why I thought I guess I was confusing it with like Iowa.
Yeah, it's not even no. Yeah. I wasn't that far off. I just didn't realize it was like one state east of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
So were you attracted to the construction? Whoa, is that me? What's going on with my audio? Were you attracted to the design aspect of construction as much as the construction aspect of it?
No, not at all. So people, kind of assume that usually, but it's not my gig, not at all. And luckily, my partner, Mandy, she was with me when we were designing my house, and just through every decision was there. She's super decisive. She can see the big picture. She loves that stuff. And I don't care nearly as much. Like, I know what I want at the end. Like, I want this beautiful feel, but no, I like the smell of sawdust and, you know, all that side of things. So we definitely run it as two. She runs the design side. I run the construction side.
So how early did you bring in the design side into your business?
Yeah. So when we started, I did that for spec home, but I did keep doing spec homes for a little while. And so it was about the second house. So she helped me with mine, then that first one, and then started helping on the third. I'm like, how many favors can I pull in before this gets awkward? Like, at what point? And so at that point, I hired her on whether she liked it or not. And now she's stuck with me.
Because I was looking on your website, and it looks like you do a lot of e-design, and there's different ranges, right? So you have different lengths of consultations and different intensity there. What is, like, to me, I see that, and it's a really good opportunity to get your foot in the door with potential customers, to get their feet
Mm-hmm.
wet and start engaging with you. Is that the idea with that?
Yeah, in our area, there aren't any design studios. So it is a little bit unique where, like, if I was up in Sun Valley, and we probably will be here shortly, but there are a lot of design firms there that we went on a market to help bring us clients. And that would be like the normal flow of things, right? Like, you want to get in with the architects, you want to get in with the designers, but here it's not even a thing, really. We're the only ones that are doing full drafting design, or, 3D renderings, all of that. And so it sells my company and sells the custom homes. And yeah, like you're saying, it helps get people in the door where it just makes their life so much easier. So selling them on that side of things, where you're taking on this huge project that has so many emotions and financial decisions, having the design side makes their life a lot easier. So it's a really great coupling tool with our marketing.
Well, yeah, I feel like when somebody's going to build a house, especially if they, like, design isn't as critical, or they're not pushing it as much in your area, that to sell somebody on that sometimes can be tough, but to offer something where they can get their foot in the door and pay $150, $450, $850, or your 3 levels there, it's not a massive investment. And then they do have a tiny bit of skin in the game, but then they're also getting to experience how that actually will help the build. And I feel like it's just an opportunity to be landing customers, clients, and projects before you actually land those jobs.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And
Unless you do an absolutely terrible job and they're like, screw this, we're going elsewhere.
Can do it better on my own.
And I was looking at, like, specifically the e-design, like, you have the packages ABC. They're low dollar investments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the general response to, even price point? And then are most of them, converting into a project?
Honestly, we have not done that much e-design. So we're still studying it to see how that will do. But
Meaning that most people are just skipping that and getting right into, building. Yeah.
Yeah. So the e-design was more of, there's trying to serve some of the remodel needs here in this area, where we're set up to be custom home builders. Like, that's our gig, that's our niche. We'll take on some remodels here and there, but we get requests for it all the time. And so that was kind of a way to fill that gap, where I think probably they would feed us in the next step when they are ready to sell. So maybe 3 years down the road, that would become a client. So I think it's more of a long game, at least for what we've seen right now. If they're coming in ready to build a custom home, they're going straight into that pre-construction track.
And you're in pre-construction, so you're handling, lot acquisition potentially, unless they come to you with a lot, but then you're handling design all the way through construction every time.
Yeah. We've only had one that had a designer that they had started with, and they still needed so much help that it was pretty much, all the way through. So we don't have in-house drafting. We'll work with an architect or a designer, and our go-tos, they actually come into our office. So it does feel like in office to the clients. The construction side's there, design side's there, and those appointments, which I think really helps the client where they're making big decisions, but they don't know how that affects the budget, or if that weird, crazy thing they want for design will now fit into it. So it's part of that concierge client experience that we're going for. And then we do all of our design really early too. So that's all in pre-construction, picking out all of our finishes, and getting that all lined out will happen before foundation.
Do you think that how am I going to say this? The fact that your area typically isn't going this route, do you think that has been beneficial and helped you grow your business, or has that been somewhat of a limiting factor for you, where it's like, hey, we have to sell something that nobody else is doing in our market? Like, I could see that going either way.
I think it's been both. So it was really easy to distinguish myself in the beginning. Like, my houses stand out. No one in our area is putting that effort into their elevations or their design. And I mean, there are, but you can tell my houses in a neighborhood compared to other ones. So at the beginning, it was really great to get my name around. Like, my business grew really fast because I did stand out so quickly. But then we are in a smaller market, so getting enough clients that want to build in that range, and not even that has to be a huge house, but you want someone that cares about their products and the design that goes into it. So that's a limiting factor where we don't have as many, and we probably have to look at widening our range a little bit, where we talk about a Sun Valley or a Burley, expanding that growth a little bit.
Yeah. So do you think that you were getting paid a fair dollar value for the work that you're doing right now? Like, or would you be able to build the homes that you're building elsewhere for more money?
I think we are getting close to being fair. I think we're lower than most people would doing the same thing, just because of where we're at. A lot of changes came with the coalition, just learning how other people were doing it and realizing it's not the same.
Well, you're trying to create a market where there's not one, and you're capped and your market's capped. So until you establish that market, until you establish those systems, until you get your portfolio built, people are only willing to pay a certain amount. So like, you actually have to create the market where you are. That takes time, and it takes investment. And then it's like, at what point are you recouping, and are you charging a fair value? Because you have to get it out there before people start hiring you for it.
Yeah. I think it's totally true. And I do think we're lower than where we need to be, because like you're saying right now, I need to compete with all the builders here where it comes down to price, but our value and what we're doing is so different. So I hope that grows as our company grows and we're feeling a little bit more sure-footed on it, but we're not the cheapest, and we're not competing with that. But I also think that for what we're giving, we should be charging more.
Yeah. Do you struggle to find subs that have the same mindset as you?
I mean, we kind of touched on that. It took a long time to get trades that have the same mindset. And I feel so great about our team right now and our backup squad. Just, it's a different mindset for sure. And having your trades on board with it's a game changer. It's made our life so much better, having trades that understand our process. Like, these guys have never seen a finish schedule or a design book before, and we've got everything laid out for them. We've got the QR codes up. We've got all the specs here. Like, we're just super trying to systemize everything. And they're they're bought in. And sometimes it's obnoxious where I'm like, just give me a framing bid for the love. I got to get numbers in. And he's like, let's talk about all the decisions and things that we could change about this. And I have 4 hours to go over this. But yeah, having trades on board is, man, it changes everything.
I mean, there's different levels to that. And one that comes to mind is finding subs who are able to execute what you want to execute. It's not even that it's a matter of finding the bodies. It's completely rerouting their thought process and how they have worked forever. When you're the standard for the market, or when you're looking to set the bar for that market, you have to teach them to slow down. You have to teach them your process. You have to pay them more. And when people are so used to working a certain way, it's a really difficult for them to change, especially when they go and work for another builder who's not demanding the same level from them. And it's like, well, it's less headache. We can go work for another builder, right? It's like, well, maybe we make a little bit more, but we're redoing stuff and it's more of a hassle. So finding those subs, and then finding subs who are actually able to do what you need to do, is also difficult.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it is hard to find bodies, but just like you're saying, finding bodies that can do what you want to do and they want to do it also is huge.
I know that your business is primarily women. Not that that was intentional. I know that you're not. I don't think you're allowed to actually just hire a certain.
No, we have let in a few stinky boys. It's all
Okay.
right.
But initially,
one of them being your husband.
No, I fired him. He's back out.
He's back out?
No.
You gotta get him off the website.
What was the logic behind that initially? Like, was that an intentional decision? And we all understand that, like, you're not allowed to, there's issues with doing that, but like, realistically speaking, it probably just didn't happen that way. So like, what was your thoughts process behind building the company the way that you did?
Yeah, so I mean, it started out as Mandy and I, and we did get a lot of like attention for being just females running a construction company, but it was just the two of us. Like it was never like we're like let's do this. We're all in, girls only, no boys allowed.
Was that a thought or no?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
when we went to hire our first hire, there was that thought where I'm like, well, this is going to be awkward. It's going to be a boy in there, and we're going to like have to work late and jobs. I don't think I was like, this does complicate my life a little bit. It'd be a little weird. Like, who is this person going to be? And we actually did have a female project manager for a little while, and it was fantastic. I do think that trades are a little bit kinder and a little bit quicker to answer, and we're a little bit better at nagging, and so there's that side of it. But no, never intended to build a female only company, but I do love the idea of being a safe spot, or not a safe spot, but like we have a project management intern right now, and she's killing it. And it is so fun that she's like, I didn't want to do my internship. Nothing felt right. And then she saw us, and I think it's just a little bit more approachable, if that makes sense, where it's, yeah. So I love that we can be that for someone, and we can help teach women about the industry, but no, we're not trying to keep all the boys out.
No, but like, I do think that there's a different dynamic. And I do think, I mean, Nick has daughters, I have daughters. I would think that it would be easier for one of them to step into a job or a situation in a predominantly male driven industry that has more of a female base in there. Just from like an intimidation type, that like, I think that it is more approachable, and to have a business where you can provide that for women in construction, whether it was intentional or not, or it continues to be an intentional decision or not, like there needs to be a place for that in our industry.
Yeah, I think it is really big. We talk a lot. I'm on the Professional Women in Building board for the National PWB. And so this comes up a lot. Like, why aren't there more women in this industry? And I think that it all really leads back to that, where there isn't that approachable spot to come into it. Whereas most builders and people getting into construction, you're hiring within. So you kind of go up the ranks, you started doing this and then you became this and then you thought, I'll go out on my own. And so it's like this natural progression that we see in a lot of people coming into building. But as females, you're not getting that as much. And so you're not looking for those higher roles or going out on your own because you didn't step your way up. So I think it's a great way to make a difference is to have somewhere where you can get in and not feel terrified.
Yeah,
I
and like design doesn't have to be the only avenue to get into construction for women.
Mhm.
And also, like, you don't have to work your way up through the ranks. You don't have to swing a hammer if you don't want to swing a hammer. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to see more opportunity where it's like you don't have to be a boots on the ground grunt type of employee and then work your way up internally through a company or business, that you can go into a management position, you can go into a supervisory role within construction, and it doesn't have to be that internal growth or through a design avenue.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. And I think it doesn't have to be a female either. When I was in construction or engineering in college, I had to take welding as my like very first class. So I'm just this young girl coming in there. Of course, I'm the only girl and I'm petrified, right? Like I'm trying to play it cool, but I'm a little nervous. Like I'm probably going to go blinded or I don't know, melt my finger off for sure. And I had an instructor come over, and it was probably after the first class or two, and he's like, "Okay, you're gonna do okay." Like he must have noticed that I was feeling a little uncomfortable, and he's like, "Every female I've had come through here has been petrified at the beginning, kind of slower to put herself out there, and then killed it in the class." And I just think that there's so many opportunities, but we can't get past that first portion. And so when you're out there and you're in the industry, grab her and say, you can do this. Like you may be a little bit nervous right now. You may have a lot to learn, but you're going to kill it in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, you could probably relate, but I know getting into the industry when I was younger and not having the confidence in myself, whether you're male or female, it was intimidating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a female, a younger female, but it's like I was intimidated at 19, 20 years old, even 25 years old, still sometimes like dealing with older trades, intimidated in this industry. And I that's coming from a male's perspective. And
Mm.
I could see it being extremely more intimidating coming from a woman's perspective with like everything that I experienced within the construction world. And it shouldn't be that way. And there's nothing that I do or any of my trades do on a daily basis that a woman would not be extremely successful at, especially like I feel like you guys are so much better at organizing, taking care of trades, like communicating with trades. Keep like I also feel that you probably take a lot of the emotion out of what you're doing when you're like managing trades. Like you said, the ego is not there as
Mm-hmm.
much. Um, I would say that women would be extremely successful in a project management role versus a lot of men that I know.
Yeah. I mean, we're good at nagging, we're good at list making, we're good at communicating. Like those are the top three job requirements. We've got them covered. Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like it is Nick, like you said, the ego also where it's like, well, I told them to do it this way, and it's because I wanted it done that way, not necessarily because like that's the way it has to get done. And I
Right.
don't think that women are necessarily like that. It's just like No, I wanted it done because that's the way it has to get done.
Hmm.
And then for me, it's like emotional and it's personal, where I don't know if that's the right avenue for that exchange.
Well, I think, I mean, what you said, Tyler, like, I remember being younger and in this industry and being super nervous about the whole process. I think we talked about this early in some of the early episodes, is that I, I avoided, I didn't avoid this all the time, but I avoided pulling permits when I could because I didn't want to go into the building department and talk
Yeah.
to the building inspector because everyone told me it was terrible. And, and fast forward, it's funny because now I feel like, for whatever reason, I mean, I think probably experience and just realizing that, the fear, it's not as bad as you would think. Like, I heard something the other day that someone described fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And because when you look at it, it looks like you have this ocean of just fear and you're afraid to step into it. But when you step into it, it's only an inch deep and realize, oh, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
And I think about now where it's like, yeah, I talk to trades that are, I would have been uncomfortable talking to before. I meet with architects that, are, of a stature that would make you nervous. Like you're like, like they're, can I go and actually talk to them? And the reality is like, it's like when people meet celebrities. I think it's so funny when you like people meet celebrities and they can't talk and they're beside themselves. And it's like, and then you have the ultra celebrity, like they hate that shit. They're just as much of a person, and if you're a good person, and like they probably equally want to talk to you. Um, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I think that to say it again, I think that yeah, we have an ego, meaning men have this ego of like we have to know what we're talking about. It's my way. This is how I'm going to manage people, and the female's perspective, I think, is great, and we've had some female project managers as well, and they take a completely different approach, and one that is that is great, and I really appreciate because it's different and it's refreshing in the approach that they take versus some of the male counterparts.
I feel like even the dynamic between contractor and designer, and you could tell me if I'm completely wrong, or out of line, but like would be a healthier relationship with a woman managing or a woman working with a female designer. Like the dynamic between man and woman in those positions, I feel like would be easier.
I totally agree, but I think we're missing the big one. Who makes all the decisions on every project?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, who are you typically dealing with? Because I always deal with the wife,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
always. And then it's like to have a woman dealing with the woman who's making the decisions on the build would also be a huge benefit.
I think it is like it's this huge financial undertaking and it's long and it's scary and their emotions are high. I think it's just so much better when they feel like they can come and ask me a dumb question and there's
Yeah.
no intimidation factor there. Like, yes, let me tell you what a fascia is. Let's go through that.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe they wouldn't be willing to just go up to their builder and ask that.
That is a good point. And I didn't look at it from that perspective where it's like when they have questions that they're afraid to look silly, or they don't have to have a guard up when they want to ask something. And I didn't see it from that perspective. But I also, like, I don't know. Sometimes I have two daughters, and then we are around a lot of like the girls at birthday parties and stuff like that. And sometimes women do not get along with other women also. And
It's
like,
true.
I don't know, men sometimes it's face value. My mom always said like boys, they kick and they spit. What you see is what you get. It's like whatever you see and whatever's happening is very like girls and women can, like my girls especially, they can be very vindictive and like sneaky and like emotional warfare on each other, and I'm like, damn, we would just punch my brother if we weren't getting along. and then it's like emotionally destroying the younger one. I'm like, damn, this is intense. These girls are intense.
Girls are scary. I have 1 and 3 boys, and yeah, I'll take the broken bones over.
Yeah, that's what we were 4 boys and 1 girl. Nick, weren't you 4 boys and 1 girl?
Yeah.
Yeah. And my mom's like, I would take the 4 boys any day over the 1 girl.
I think it's true. We haven't had any issues like that really, which has been awesome. And I think we make fun of the trades a lot for being like middle school girls. But I think it's just what you're saying. They're kicking and screaming. You know, they've got one way to show how they're feeling, and so we get to hear all the little catty drama. But yeah, girls, they'll get you.
Well, the other thing is like, I don't know, you don't want to push a woman or a girl too far. Like maybe they're like less abrasive up front and this and that, but like when there's a hard line in the sand, I think that I would blur that line a little bit more with a guy than with a girl.
Yeah.
Like when you get down to business, it's like, all right, yeah, no means no. And that point, I get it. With a guy, I'd be like, oh, we'll just do it anyway. We'll get over it. Do you think that there's anything within the trades that we could change that would make it a little easier for women to enter or not feel as unwelcoming?
Yeah, I mean, just what we've kind of talked about with like giving encouragement, you know, let someone know, especially share that you didn't feel comfortable coming into this, because I know when I got started, I thought it was just me. Like every other builder's got it together. They just, you know, decided one day they're going to be builders. They had it figured out, and I'm the one that's struggling or learning or feeling like I don't deserve to be here. And so I think it's great that you're sharing that, and it's great to give someone encouragement and let them know like you'll get there. This is just part of that journey, and you can't skip this step.
Yeah, because sometimes I wonder with stuff like that where, you know, people say it's a big deal because you're making it a big deal, and it's like, but we've gone so long without addressing it. So it's like, oh, just leave it be, let it be. You know, don't make such a big deal out of it. But we've done that for a really long time, and I don't know if it is created a really warm and welcoming environment for young girls and women who want to get into the industry. So like, is it something that's just don't focus on it, or is it something that we make like a concerted effort to make a change, or like just our perception of it?
Oh man, I'm in the middle. You can't make too big of a deal about it, or then it's weird, and
Yeah,
you know, calling someone honey, and they're gonna
I mean that
go off on
that's
you.
like diner waitress stuff.
Yeah, I do think we need to shed more light on it. Like the whole industry, we need more bodies for sure. Like we're not, our trades are retiring and no one's coming in. Like it's just a slow trickle where we're losing people. And you go to like big conferences or events where they're talking about this, and they go through all the different ways like immigration and this and that. And no one mentions that 52% of the population is told they can't join this industry. Not that they're told, but you know, like they think that in their heads. And so it's like this huge untapped, untalked about, like in all those efforts, they're missing the fact that we've got people right here. And I don't think women know enough about it. Like they don't know that they could get an awesome trade job. Like I always tell, like if I was to do this again, I'd do tile. That's what I would do. Like you can control.
Why tile?
Temperature controlled. I have to have a temperature controlled trade job. Don't tell my trades that, because I give them
if you're the mixer? I guess you guys are building full houses. You can work inside for the most part.
Yeah, I'll only take inside full house jobs. I won't mix.
Yeah, you don't want to be like a remodeling tile person where you're like mixing and cutting outside in the winter.
Oh yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. but like, yeah, you could be a mom and you could take on, 2 jobs a week, 1 job a week, 5, like depending on how life was going and what stage you were at. And you can make amazing money in it. And people, I feel like I'm like trying to destroy everything my parents taught me, but college is awesome. It's not for everyone. It's awesome, but there are jobs that you could do that also can give you that freedom and huge financial income. So,
Do you have any regrets with leaving? I understand that you left your old job, had children and everything else, but do you have any regrets about not circling back on that career avenue?
oh, there are a few things that every once in a while I'm like, oh, I could have pursued that. But for the most part, this is very similar, where I'm taking creativity and design and pouring through all these details, prototypes, scheduling out the whole process, and then watching something create. There aren't very many jobs like that where you get to see your work, like this final product, this thing that you can show someone and say, I did it. And so both jobs have that similar aspect to it. And I really love that. The creative side getting to the actual tangible side.
I can't believe that 6 years in, you are where you are. You have a lot on your plate as far as like what you're doing, how much you're taking on. Is your husband helping, or is he still have a separate career?
He has a separate career. He's come on. He's got a crazy good business mind, but he's in the physical therapy arena. So every once in a while, something he'll say, I'll go back. I'm like, oh, this doesn't apply to construction. This doesn't like the
Yeah.
percentages aren't the same in these 2 businesses. But he's been incredible to kind of be able to soundboard things off of and really help me on the business side of it, where like I don't like HR. I don't like.
Mm,
I don't want to hire. I don't want to fire. I don't
yeah.
want to deal with time off or is this approved? I don't like that. And he knows it all. And he's just like, yep, you got to do this, this, and this. And
Mm,
then I kind of grumble and, of course, do what he says, Nick,
yeah. Right.
because that's what I would do if Tyler called and said it. Yeah. So he's been really great on that side of it. But you guys, he is the most supportive husband ever.
Yeah.
Like, just constantly cheering me on. I don't know how many husbands would be like, you want to go into construction? Sure, let's give this a shot. You can totally do it. And he's been cheerleading the entire time.
I mean, it's also very difficult to have a household that has 2 essentially self-employed people, where it's like,
Yeah.
if my wife had her own business, I don't know if she could emotionally handle like my emotions, venting to her, and then like her also dealing with that, because it's just a complexity and a dynamic that I feel would be very difficult if you didn't have, especially if you didn't have a supportive partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's honestly been really tough. It's been awesome also. But like you're saying, both of us being on those emotional scales and launching businesses, not at the same time, but we're like, I'm not a full grown business now. I'm kind of that awkward teenager still. And he's coming in with his, and it's definitely been really tough where you like, you do want to just come and unload everything, but
Yeah.
you need to unload everything. And then you realize, oh, this is our whole family. Like if we're both feeling this way, this
Yep.
is
Mm,
high stakes. Yeah, it's
There's like
definitely been
no
a lot of that.
reprieve from it. So 6 years in, where I understand that you're still trying to establish this market where you are, you may potentially spread your wings and your reach geographically to be getting some different jobs. But what does the growth trajectory look like? Is it a increase in volume? Is it just a type of job that you're doing? What are your goals? Being that you said, you're the teenage business. Like, what does the adult business look like for you?
Um, I definitely want to grow, and I am a very like goal, want to keep going, never happy with where I'm at type of person, which is a huge personality flaw and benefit. But I don't want to grow super big, as in quantity. I'm thinking like 12 to 15 houses a year is our peak. That's where we want to be. I don't want to
And
go
where are
past.
you now?
We're like six to possibly going up to 8 this year. So it's not a huge amount, but our numbers are getting bigger, like, or the size of the homes and the complexity of them is getting bigger. And I do want to keep increasing that because I find it's like self-inflicted pain, but it's so much joy to figure out a new floor plan, a new challenge, and all of that.
So would you say that that would be more of a priority for you than the volume?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because
I do.
it's good that, like, that's the difficult part where it's like, okay, so you're going to go from 6 to 8 houses a year to 15 houses a year, but now they're more complex builds. That could be the equivalent of doing like 30 homes a year.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
almost looking at it like rather than how many homes, it's how much revenue you're producing or how many square feet you're building, rather than the quantity of homes, especially if they are bigger and more complex. That Meg, that was actually a question. Like looking at your portfolio, they all have a name, which when I look at the website, like I like that, but it also has this from the viewer almost you're almost presenting a product where it's like, oh, I could
Mm-hmm.
buy the Morgan.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was curious if that is like, is that intentional? And when you're thinking about design, or is someone coming to you saying, "Hey, I really like the Parker. This I want to build that," and then are you developing it on that, or is the design starting? You kind of alluded to it a moment ago, but is the design starting with a completely blank sheet of paper and you're starting from scratch?
I love design if we can start with a home that they really do like. So that is a benefit if they walk in and they're like, I love the Parker. Let's do
Yeah.
this. But we've never built the same house twice. It's not
Mhm.
like they're going on there and they may love the Parker and they may say, I don't want to make any changes, but we all know they're gonna make changes. And
Yeah.
so it's a good starting point. It makes going a lot faster for us, but we didn't intend for it to be that way. We actually started out those house names are usually last names of some female in the construction field. So you've got like the inventor of the modern day central air system
Oh,
is,
that's cool.
yeah, like they're all the first architect, the first, oh, she designed a bridge. Now I'm forgetting which bridge, but it's super cool that she did it, a big bridge. So that's where those names came from. And the only reason we did it is because I constantly say the wrong address. And
Mhm.
so no one could trust me. And now I have names, and that makes it a little bit, I wouldn't say I always say the right name. If my team's listening right now, they'll totally call me on that. But it's a little bit better. So now when I say I'm talking about the Parker, there's a 60% chance I'm talking about the Parker.
It's like your kids when you start yelling at them and you
Oh
call
my
them every name that's not theirs. I remember my parents used to do that, and I'd be like, "How do you not know my name?" And now I do it to my kids all the time, and I only have 2.
Dude, I called my kid my dog's name the other day. I'm like, this is I had the same thought. I'm like, I used to make fun of my parents. I'm like, it's so weird that you can't just know my name.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
I went through the entire roster the other day before I called them the right name. I
yeah.
was like, how? Like, why is that where my brain went? I think Meg, the I love the idea behind it. But it's funny because we talk a lot about the the way we label jobs. So we have
Mm-hmm.
like job numbers, then we have addresses, and then we have last names, and it's like no one sticks to one, including myself. And it's
Yes.
like, what job are we talking about? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, 23 Main Street. It's like, what's the last name on that job? It's like, oh, it's Smith. And they're like, what job number is it? And I'm like, 243. It's like and we had a meeting last week, and we're like, we need to just come up with a nomenclature for projects and just stop.
Yes.
And the easiest thing would be the address, but then it's like once you get into custom homes, like you
Yeah.
can't
No.
say the address.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Like social media, we will come up with a new name for them for the client, usually like change the name. But then, like you're saying, like your trades are going to be saying this by the last name, or deliveries will come by the last name. And
Right.
so we've kind of stuck with that when we're in the job, unless it's being up on the website or somewhere like that. It's the name we give it and the
Yeah.
address.
So you guys also have on your website available lots. Are you guys acquiring lots at this point, or are you partnering with people who have lots? What does that look like, if you're comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, for sure. We have a couple developments. One we're doing on our own, which I'm really excited about. They're like 1 to 1.5 acre lots, east side of town, which is really great. And we're hoping that this will be a great marketing tool. Like it will bring us those builds that we're hoping to get. So we're buying and developing land that will be in the market and area that we're wanting to build in. So we're really excited about that one. We do have a smaller one that we're doing with a partner, or smaller lots, which will be good, but it's nice that one's just the developer hat. Like it's really hard on the one that we're hoping to use for marketing,
Yeah.
because like the developer hat, like you need to get those sold, pump them out, move on to the next thing. And the builder's like back to that like ego thing where I'm like, oh, I just want them all to be Meg construction houses and it will be so cute. So
Yeah, so like if you're holding lots, what does that look like as far as your sense of urgency to develop those lots?
yeah, I so those ones we do truly hold and develop. The ones that we usually work with a developer here in town, and it's kind of a really great setup where he'll let you purchase them just on interest payments, and so it's a lot easier to get in, to get
Yeah.
something saved and to switch them out if you need to. It's, I don't know, I hear that that's not very common, and it's made life so much easier for us.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume so. If you're having to purchase lots outright and then hold that throughout
Hmm.
the construction cost of things, that would end up getting pretty steep depending on how many lots you acquire. I mean, on undeveloped land, that's one thing, but lots where you're able to develop and there's utilities and infrastructure in place,
Mm.
you would be paying a premium for.
Yeah, yeah, and we are Idaho. Like our prices have gone up a lot, but our dirt is still quite a bit cheaper than your infill lot properties that you guys are thinking of.
When
So
you
Yeah.
say your pricing has went up a lot, what specific, like everything across the board, construction in general?
yeah, just with all the demand, everything, like clients keep waiting for prices to come down. I don't think that's happening.
I,
So
I think
yeah,
for anyone listening, like I've been saying this to everyone, the least expensive time to build is now.
yeah,
Like it's just historically, like we're not seeing a dip in construction cost.
yeah.
It's if you're not going to build now, you have to assume that it's going to be more expensive.
Or interest rates. I mean, they may come down slightly in the next
Sure.
year or two, but like not anything significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even, I don't know, I'm sure you guys got all the emails in January saying there's a 6% increase on this
Yep.
product and 6% on this. I'm like, probably should have gone with the old interest rate and gotten your material prices in before that. Like
Yeah.
and trades, same thing. We're losing trades. And so their prices are going up. Also, they have to charge it. So,
Yeah, it's tough. It's I can't imagine. It's interesting because I feel that now is a really good time to be in the industry. Like there's a ton of work. There's a lot of opportunity. There are fewer people building and fewer subs. So like if you do good work, you're putting yourself in a really good position. But I also think that there's a lot of challenges that we experience today that we didn't experience pre-COVID and everything else. So I don't know if I were choosing to start a business like now, if it would be preferred versus when I did start, or like even in your position to be in business 6 years, like it's a great time to be in business, but you only know what you know. And there's a lot of struggles right now that we didn't experience 10 years ago that you're having to really learn and work your way through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Like
I
I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing to be at this stage of your career in 2024. I can't figure that out. In some ways it's good, and in some ways I'd be like, man, that would be really hard.
tell me what you're thinking. What things are good and bad versus when you were starting?
I I do think that if you do good work, like people are valuing that more today than they have before. Like I think that people are willing to pay for quality, and there's this resurgence in craftsmanship and buying um a higher quality product. But at the same time, like there's struggles with trades, there's struggles with getting people on job, there's material hiccups, the quality of materials have gone down. So a lot of times when I do jobs today, I'm comparing stuff, like stuff that's frustrating me. I'm like, this wasn't like this pre-COVID, so it's frustrating to me. And maybe it's like the ignorance of just not knowing would be easier, but there's a lot of logistical struggles right now. And I don't mean ignorance in a bad way. It's just like
Oh, yeah.
you don't know. But like I think that there's a lot of struggles that we deal with today as builders that we didn't deal with before. And I think that there were certain, like when I started, there were the learning curves didn't seem to be as steep.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I think that those would be the biggest differences. That it's just like, yeah, I think that if you do good work, there's more opportunity now than there had been before. The market's exploded, and there's money in construction, but at the same time, it's like I don't feel that it's the easiest time to be in our industry.
No. I mean,
Yeah.
I think like there's a lot of contributing factors to that, but I think that there's just so much focus on complexity, just like strictly from a design perspective. Everyone is being influenced by more complex design. You know, Meg, you said it. It's like homes are getting bigger and more complex, and that's super fun for a lot of us. But you know what happens with that is now homes become more expensive and expensive for the end user. And when you start trickling all of these homes to be bigger and more complex, you start dropping out the simple homes. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's hard to reel yourself back individually and as an industry if everyone trends to these bigger, more elaborate homes. It's like, what happened to the 24 by 30 cape that we used to build for $65,000? It's like if you do the math on that now, and like it's like you can't. It doesn't even make sense. Like you can't build
Yeah.
it for that. And there's a lot contributing to that, but
And it's
um,
just like anything else, like the marketing perspective, the website, like everything that you need now to differentiate is also different. It's not like the good old boys just building and word of mouth, right? And it's like you always have to have a leg up, and there's opportunity there, but you just can't sleep on it. Um, so I think there's a lot of behind the scenes work and a lot of reinvesting in your businesses that always wasn't the case as well.
I do think that's really a huge difference. Like I never got into construction and thought, I'm gonna record 3 reels every week with my
Yeah.
face in it. Like that's why I'm doing this. But you have to. Like there's higher expectations, I think, than
Yeah.
just showing up and building a house. I think that the expectation has changed a lot. People are used to the customer service, they're used to the communication. They're just they expect more from it, and the marketing side's more competitive, and so
Yeah. I mean, it, like I said, there's pros and there's cons, and I look at it and I'm like, I'm not sure which I would prefer. But that being said, I don't know if I'd be envious of somebody starting business like now.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't know. That's tough. So, do you like Idaho?
Oh man, I kind of came here kicking and screaming. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll go anywhere in the world, and you're taking me to Idaho, and I love it. We'll
Yeah.
never leave
do you like
here.
it more than Alaska?
No, Nick. Alaska is magnificent.
That's what everyone tells me, but no one stays there.
Well,
Like everyone I talk to that
I mean, your sister moved to Germany.
Yeah.
I guess it's not that far from Alaska.
It's not that far. My parents moved there, loved it so much. My dad quit his job and started a business, and they never left.
Where in Alaska?
Anchorage and then Kenai Peninsula. So Sterling, Soldotna area. Yeah.
I actually had friends growing up. They grew up in like the town that I grew up in, their parents, and then they moved to Alaska for probably like 15 or 20 years, and then moved back as they started having families and everything else. Their dog's name was Kenai. It was a lab, but they like loved it.
Yeah.
But they ended up coming back home because of family and everything else.
It is, I mean, flights and everything, like the world's getting smaller, but I didn't know my cousins' names growing up, which was kind of sad. Like you're pretty removed. Like it's not right next to Washington. It's up above Canada. Like we're up there a ways. And so that was definitely tough. And then I think if you don't grow up with it, the sun will get you for sure. Not having it in winter, it's tough, but I don't know. I grew up in it and love it.
I haven't been to Idaho, but I follow a few people who are builders there. And like it does look beautiful, and there appears to be a ton of outdoor stuff to do. It's a decent market. There's a lot of career opportunities. I told my wife I've never been to Idaho. I was like, I feel like I could live in Idaho, and she's like, shut up. No chance. No chance. I was like, I was online, and I'm like showing her videos of like outdoor crap, and my kids are like, yeah, and it snows there, yeah. And my wife's like, no. Like,
yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Well,
I had the kids bought in. They 100% bought in, and my wife is just like, no.
Twin Falls is where the main airport is, right?
Boise. Yeah. We got a little airport. Don't mean to brag. We got 3 flights a day now, you guys.
Damn.
But moving up.
So where did I fly in? I swear I flew into Twin Falls when I went to Sun Valley.
I mean, there's the Sun Valley Airport. How long was your drive after?
I don't know.
Yeah. There's the Sun Valley Airport.
I feel like so I must have flew into Sun Valley.
You could definitely just look in your email right now for where your plane tickets were.
I could.
There's no use speculating.
I would need to know this. Like, were you like 10 minutes from my house and didn't?
This was 2 years ago, maybe. But either my point is in Sun Valley, it's amazing. It's very much a second home destination. But I mean, I went there for my Builder 20, and the homes that we were touring, Tyler, were monstrous.
Really?
Like, I mean, just everything about them, the scale of like you walk in the living room and there's beams holding up the living room, and they're like 20 by 20.
Were they nice?
Beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful homes. And it's interesting because they were talking about how it's just a very difficult market. It's very expensive to live there, so a lot of trades, drive into there, they work and then they leave. And then there's these, there's a lot of builders, a lot of bigger builders that will come in, build, and then leave. Builders that work around the country. So it's just an interesting market. But, I remember, I know we talked about Twin Falls quite a bit, where they were like, that's where like there's a lot of overflow from Sun Valley and getting into some of those other parts of Idaho.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably similar to like Salt Lake, right? Where the rest of Utah isn't known for its architecture and its building and everything else. And then you go to those destination areas, and there's these pockets of wealth and qualified subs and contractors and everything else.
Yeah.
It's much different than the East Coast, where it's like, I guess the coasts are different, where it's just so densely populated and everything's so close that you don't have these pockets like you do out west or in the middle of the country.
So I flew into Salt Lake and then to Sun Valley.
You drove from Salt Lake to Sun Valley?
No. I flew from Salt Lake.
That's far.
Come on, dude.
And
You don't remember that drive?
that was March of 2022.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get out to Idaho. Maybe I'll come visit.
I'll tell you my complaint of building in Idaho that's random and weird, but we the suppliers, they always want to treat the builders, and so they've got these cool little like trips or incentives or that kind of thing. And when you live in Idaho, it's like, do you want to go on this insane whitewater rafting trip where you have to pee outdoors with all the other builders? Or do you want to go on this crazy fishing trip in Oregon where you have to pee outdoors with all the other builders? And they're like constantly asking me. I'm like, just give me Final Four tickets. That's what I want. Like, I don't want to go backpacking with all the other builders. Just let me do a basketball game. Is that like, but we don't have any big city games around us. It's hard, you guys. It's a hard life to live.
Wait, does Alaska?
I'll take the outdoors experiences, and I'll buy you basketball tickets.
Let's do it. We'll do a little swap here.
We'll trade. I'm gonna find a vendor near me who will buy me basketball tickets, and then we'll just trade.
Perfect.
I'm perfectly fine peeing outside.
Meg, the last question I had for you was, thinking about scaling your business and growing into more complex and larger homes. You have a great team now that is kind of dividing and conquering between project management and project coordinator and design. What does the business as a team perspective look like as you continue to drive towards more complex and bigger homes?
Yeah, we've grown a ton in our team in this last year, just sheer numbers. I didn't realize you needed help. I'm just not used to that. Or it's usually just the guy and he does it, and that's how it works. And so I was drowning, and then talking to other builders, I'm like, oh, you have people that help you and people that are better at these things than you. So this last year has been a huge amount of growth on the hiring side, which also has meant like a huge amount of training and me being behind schedule and training everyone. So I'm sure they're all about to wring my neck, but it's been amazing. And like, we're starting to really get our rhythm and our flow. I think as we grow, there's definitely a few positions that we're wearing different hats right now that we'll have to hire in, maybe like getting either an estimator or a bookkeeper, or like where things are combined right now, moving those apart would be the next step. But I don't think we have to hire a ton of people. It's Tyler always is complaining. He's like, I have to employ 180 people, and you guys can take over the world with 7. And so it's a pretty cool industry to be in for that side of things. But we'll definitely need to hire a few more, but I don't think we'll be hiring an army.
I like that. Focus on building the process of efficiency within the team that you have.
Yeah. I don't know. Future Megan may change that completely.
Probably. Who knows? I feel like you're like me. You say what makes sense today, and then you adjust accordingly.
Yep.
I would ask you if you're going to be at another summit, but a little birdie told me that Tyler told you that you couldn't go because you get plenty of responsibility in Idaho. So
my FOMO is hurting though. It's definitely hurting.
That's okay. There'll be another.
Oh, it'll be awesome. You guys will have a blast.
Well,
but not as much of a blast as if I was there.
No, I was gonna say that's what you
not too much of a blast.
No, we'll just like
be
a 7,
there
like a 7.
Yeah, 7.1 maybe.
Well, we appreciate you being on the podcast. I appreciate the friendship that we've developed, and more importantly, I appreciate the social media content that you put out that keeps this industry lighthearted and fun. And I think that can be, the way we summarize how you approach this is that you have a lot of fun doing it, and I know I appreciate that.
Hey, thanks. I really appreciate you saying that, and yeah, you got to. And I thank you so much for having me on here. You guys are incredible. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for your time. I know we had some hiccups, and then working through the technical difficulties. Don't feel badly. Nick and I have issues with AV literally every single time that we hop on the podcast. So
And you're
my palms
definitely
are still sweaty from trying to get those headphones working. And
Yeah, we always forget that it's like stressful for other people, but when we say that we screw up almost every episode, it's the
every episode.
truth.
Yeah.
I
Truth.
love it. I love it.
Last week, Doug texted me. He's like, "Yo, your mouth isn't lining up with your words on the whole podcast," and I was like, "I thought I noticed that." He's like,
What?
"I think I can fix." I guess something was going on with my internet that like it
Ah,
wasn't processing fast enough. And I was like, I thought I noticed that, and I tried restarting it, but I figured it was just my computer. And he's like, nope, it was a whole podcast. I was like, all right, cool,
amazing.
Oh,
good to know. It's every week, so don't feel badly.
you guys are so lucky to have Doug. Doug, make
Oh,
sure you edit it beautifully. I want to sound like I'm the most eloquent speaker.
You
he's
will.
on top of it. Cool. Meg, we'll talk soon. There's a little button on the bottom here. It says leave studio. When you click that, it's going to give you a pop-up and just hit OK. And it will upload on the next screen. Once it says 100%, you're good to go.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you
Thank
so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Oh, guys, we got new swag on the website.
I think I may have dropped that on the midweek. It wasn't on the website yet. Not that I mean,
Whatever.
this is the place to do it, but I was like, you know what? I'm taking liberty. It's not on the website yet, but it's gonna be soon. So I'm
It
using
is.
this as an opportunity.
So we got some cool ass beanies on the website. We still get the pencils. We still got a bunch of notebooks. Guys, head over to Modern Craftsman .co and hit our shop up. Grab some swag. Make sure you bring it to IBS, and we'll see you at the International Builder Show.
So I recently had a consulting call with an electrician out of Texas, and he's like, you know what? I do everything I can. Like, obviously, I can't sponsor the podcast. He's like, but I buy, the pencils, the shirts, everything. And I like it was somewhat of a realization to me that like hopping on the website and purchasing something, it's supporting us. Like there's things that
Oh,
you
yeah.
may not need, right? But it's supporting us. It's supporting the brands that help put that together, the vendors that put that together, the graphic designers, the small print shops. Um, it's just a way of supporting us. And yeah, you might not need a hat, you might not need a t-shirt. There may be cooler t-shirts that you see, but at the end of the day, it's a way to support what we're doing. And support everyone who keeps this afloat. And like, we're not really making money on that, but it's allowing us to put people in place to like support the podcast and all the brands that we work with. So think of it from that perspective.
Great point. I mean, you guys sold out the t-shirts, which was amazing, and we turned around and put that money into buying more product and investing in our website. The website's been updated with all the episodes, and Tyler's been crushing the blog content. It's given us the opportunity to expand our show into Tyler's midweek, my end week. So yeah, Tyler hit that nail on the head there. It's a great way to support what we're doing here, and we'll continue to pump out great stuff for everyone.
That's it. Thank you.
Peace.
Catch you guys next week.